What is up, YouTube? It's Grinch, and today we're going to view my 2022 Thor's Lego minifigure guide and review every version of Thor ever released, and at the end of the video, I'll tell you how much the total collection of Thors is currently worth. Before we get into the video, I wanted to mention that all of the prices that I used are from the current average listed selling price on Bricklink. And lastly, I wanted to thank you for watching my videos and ask that you please like, subscribe, and join in the conversation in the comment section below. But without further ado, let's get right into the video. Starting out in 2012, we got our first ever Thor minifigure. This was the first Avengers movie version of Thor, and he was released in 3 sets and is currently priced on Bricklink at $12.72. And this was just a really good first start, in my opinion. Had some nice torso printing, definitely lacking in the arm as well as leg printing categories, but overall just a good start. Represented the character really well, especially for almost 10 years ago now. It wasn't until 2014 that we saw our next version of Thor, and this was the comic book version, and he was released in 1 set and is currently priced on Bricklink at $13.49. This was definitely a more simplified version of Thor, and actually kind of looks like Thor took a step back in terms of minifigure design. I know it was the comic version, so it was supposed to be more simple in general. However, 2 years had passed since we've seen our last Thor minifigure, and this one was just markedly worse in my opinion. 2015 gave us the Age of Ultron version of Thor. This version of Thor was released in 2 sets and is currently priced on Bricklink at $13.54, and I think they just did a really good job capturing the overall aesthetic of Thor from that movie with this torso printing. It was a very complex armor design, and I think this print is just really solid for the Age of Ultron version of Thor. After another year of no Thors, we got our next version of Thor in 2017 alongside the Thor Ragnarok movie that gave us 2 sets in total. Both of these sets featured an exclusive Thor minifigure that had the same basic torso as well as leg printing. The one on the right, however, had he was the gladiator version of Thor, so he had an additional armor piece and then had some kind of tattoos and colorful armor that were added to his base torso and leg printing, which I really like. Surprisingly though, the first version comes in as our most expensive minifigure on this list at $28.93. Maybe the red cape is what makes the difference there, or just the cleanness of that print in general. But then the gladiator version of Thor comes in at $28.18, so really not too big of a difference in terms of price. Definitely 2 really good versions of Thor in my opinion. Up next in 2018, we got 2 more versions of Thor. Up first, we had the Mighty Micros version that came out in 1 set and is priced at $5.98. You know, I kind of low-key really like the Mighty Micro versions of the superhero characters. I know they're really silly, but somehow they're just, simple and unique, and they just work for me. I don't know why. What I think I really like about them is the attempt of having something different, versus just a slightly updated torso. It's just a totally different, weird, wacky version of the characters that we like. Let me know in the comments, do you like the Mighty Micro versions or not? I definitely know they're not everybody's cup of tea, so just curious if I'm not alone here. Let me know, do you like this version or not? In 2018, we also got the Infinity War version of Thor, and that's currently priced at $11.70. Now, I think this version of Thor is just a little bit too plain in my opinion. I really like it, or like this version of the character in the movie, and I don't like this minifigure that much, so I think it's just too plain. I wish there was maybe some cool lightning arm printing or something like that. Would have just added so much to this minifigure in my opinion. In 2018, we surprisingly only got 1 Thor, and that was the Endgame white jumpsuit version. This version of Thor was released in 1 set and currently sells for $9.39. I'm not surprised that, the price is a little bit lower on this minifigure. I know a lot of people were disappointed that Endgame Wave, featured the same white jumpsuit for every single character that came out, and I think the only one that didn't was one version of Iron Man. that didn't have the jumpsuit as well as the Hulk, of course, and they retconned that later. They actually gave us that version of Hulk with the white jumpsuit. But I think what would have really made this figure stand out would have been maybe just a Thor patch or something that just signified that this was Thor's torso to make it exclusive. But we didn't get that, and right now this minifigure sits on the market on Bricklink at $9.39. Up next in 2020, we got 2 more versions of Thor. Up first, we have the Juniors version of Thor. This was featured in only 1 set and is currently on the market for $7.87. And the next version of Thor we got that year came out in 3 cents. This was the Avengers comic book video game version of Thor. And this version of Thor is currently on the market for $6.56. Now, the only difference between these 2 versions of Thor is that actually the Juniors one had a dual-sided head. It had another expression. You can see that in the image here. Otherwise, they're the exact same minifigure. I like this torso a lot. There's a lot of nice little tiny hidden details in here. And we're going to see this torso in more Thor figures to come. But I do think it's a really good torso, and I'm glad they leaned in on it. Unfortunately, it's just not a MCU version of the character, so the prices are typically lower with the non-MCU versions of all these superhero characters. 2021 was actually the year that we got the most number of unique Thors. They gave us 4 total unique versions of Thor. Up first, we have the Bro Thor that was released in 1 set and currently sells for $11.21. This will definitely become a fan favorite in the years to come. And up next, we have the Thor from the Thor's Mech set that is currently priced at $5.55. This was a $10 set that he came out with, so understandably his price is significantly lower, as well as he reuses that same torso printing from 2020, so that definitely kind of hurts that exclusivity factor. However, if you did miss that awesome helmet from Thor Ragnarok, this version came out with that helmet again, so you're able to get it in a more updated version, which is really cool in my opinion. Also in 2021, we got an updated Endgame armored version of Fat Thor that was more accurate to the movie. He was released in 3 total sets and currently sells for $8.59. And then we have the cheapest minifigure on this list. We have the Thor from the Advent calendar, who currently sits on the market at $4.37. Reuses that same torso from the 2020 Thors, as well as the Mech Thor. Doesn't have an exclusive face printing, doesn't have exclusive hair, and has that, pretty common at this point scarf accessory. So there's just really nothing exclusive about this version of Thor. So, his price is pretty low at this point and will probably stay pretty low in the near future. Finally, in 2022, we got 3 new versions of Thor. Up first, we have the Jane Foster version as Mighty Thor. Technically Thor was in the name, so I'm keeping her on this list. Also, in the comics, she does take up the mantle of Thor at some point, so I definitely thought I wanted to include her in the list. She came out in 2 of the Love and Thunder sets and is currently on the market for $7.40. Up next, we have the Thor from the 2 Love and Thunder sets as well. He comes in the market at $6.10. I was a little surprised to see that the Jane Foster version of Thor from these 2 same sets was a little bit more, although now that I think about it, we haven't seen any version of Jane Foster Thor at all, so I guess that makes a little bit more sense that, of the minifigures, she's going to be the chase one from those 2 sets, or the one that people, want to add to the collection, because at this point people have a lot of Thors and they don't have any Jane Foster Thors. But I do really like the printing in both of these minifigures. We finally get some really good unique leg printing for a Thor, which is awesome. And then he also has a different hair piece here to kind of match his new aesthetic in the new movie, and that looks good too. And last but certainly not least, we have our last version of Thor on this list that came in the buildable Mjolnir set, and he comes in at $19.44. If I was just looking at the prices, I would have thought the Thor from the Love and Thunder set would have had that price and not him. There's really nothing special about this Thor. He does have a really nice updated torso printing, but I think when you get that buildable UCS style build, you really want a special minifigure, and I just wish that this minifigure had leg printing or arm printing or just something to make it a little bit more special than just an updated torso print. Do really like the torso print, and I do think this minifigure will age well, and surprised that he's already $19.44. And finally, we have our 2022 Thor's minifigure guide. To sum it all up, the first appearance of Thor in minifigure form was in 2012, and since then we've had a total of 17 unique Thor minifigures across 26 different sets and polybags. The cheapest version of Thor comes in at $4.37, and the most expensive version of Thor comes in at $28.93. If you wanted to buy every version of Thor off Bricklink today, it would cost you in the realm of $201.02. So that wraps up our guide and is every version of Thor released to date. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking, subscribing, and make sure you join in the conversation in the comment section below. Let me know which Marvel superhero minifigure guide you'd like to see next. And as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.